Are your players inept? Do they constantly roll for things even when you tell them not to? Worst of all, do they compare you to Brennan Lee Mulligan? Sounds like you need a time dragon. Ancient beings who bend the very fabric of reality and slayers of D&D parties since 2007. That's older than it sounds. They're guaranteed to crush your players and remind them why you deserve some respect. Don't believe me? Here's everything time dragons have to offer. Let's start with the big one. The moment an ancient time dragon knows who you are, and yes, we're talking ancient dragons here, don't worry, they passed the bar, the fight is over. No, really, you're done. Because as outlined in their Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse package, once per day, this big guy can conjure a portal to any place, any time, within 8,000 years, future or past. You do the math. If a time dragon ever finds out the day you were born, they'll literally delete you from the timeline. As a baby. I don't know how criminal law applies to a past version of you, but I do know they're definitely not trying you as a child, so good luck. But fine, let's say they don't want to exploit the ultimate legal loophole and take you out as an infant. That is kind of a dick move. But time dragons have plenty of tools to get a conviction here and now, and the most devastating is their time breath. What it lacks in creativity, it makes up for in power. Any creature caught in that 90-foot cone has to make a DC 24 Constitution save or take 8d12 force damage and find themselves literally thrown out of time with the universe. What that means is they're considered poisoned, so disadvantage on attacks and ability checks, attacks against them are at advantage, and any damage they deal is halved. Good luck arguing your case when you can barely function. But it's not that bad. They can repeat the save at the end of their turn to try and end the effect. Oh wait, no, they have to succeed 3 times before it's over, meaning a minimum of 3 turns where they're in this state. Forget double jeopardy, that's triple right there. Of course, the time dragon won't always have access to its breath weapon since it does have to recharge after each use, and your players might think that means they'll get a chance to plead their case too. But time dragons know that it's not enough to provide your own evidence, you have to tear down the opposition's too. And with an AC of 22, over 500 hit points, and 5, count them, 5 legendary resistances to shrug off any failed saves, they're more than equipped to handle whatever the party can dish out. And even better, they'll dish it right back. Because instead of legendary actions, time dragons get 3 reactions every round, and they don't need to wait for the defense to rest to use them. When they get hit with an attack, or after using a legendary resistance, they can immediately hit back with a rend of their own, dealing an average of 32 damage. On the other hand, if they can see who's hitting them, the dragon can instead have the damage and then teleport away. Good luck getting that second and third swing in when the dragon's 60 feet above you. But their third option might be the cruelest of all, because when another creature ends their turn, the time dragon can single out one defendant that was weakened by its breath weapon, and reduce their speed to 0 until they break free of the condition, which again requires 3 successful saving throws. So not only are you extremely vulnerable and barely able to defend yourself, now you're stuck too. To put this in legal terms, that's real bad. And gods forbid your party has to face a time dragon in their lair, because it only gets stronger when it's working from home. On initiative count 20, it can do all sorts of things, like splitting itself between 2 points in its lair so it can reach everybody, or trying to fling one player through time and space, and if they fail a DC 18 wisdom save, they take a bunch of psychic damage and disappear for a whole round. But the worst might be their temporal lag effect, which hits every creature within 60 feet. No save, no counter argument, they're stuck. For a whole round, everyone who got caught in it can take an action or move, not both. And no bonus actions or reactions either. So let's really set this scene. Your party's fighter walks into the courtroom, confident, and they immediately get weakened by the dragon's breath, have their speed turned to 0 with its reaction, and then get time lagged into doing just a single action. I'm not saying they're screwed, but they should start looking into plea deals. But even considering all of that, flukes happen. Maybe your party manages to take down the time dragon and win the case. Well, bad news players, time dragons don't care about statute of limitations. They're coming back, because when they die, the time dragon turns into an egg that's immune to damage and teleports to a random place on a random plane. And sometime in the next 100 years, it's coming back to life, and it remembers everything. So right as the party celebrates getting acquitted, a portal from the future opens up, and it's time for round 2. You thought you won, but you really didn't. This is usually the part where I say, nobody's perfect, so here are some things to keep in mind if you hire a time dragon. But honestly, it's hard to find too many flaws here. It only gets +2 to initiative, so there is a chance it gets buried in the turn order and your players pile on before it can go, but its multiple reactions and layer actions help mitigate that problem. If it doesn't have its breath weapon charged, it can only make 3 rend attacks on its turn, but that's still an average of 96 damage, and if done against a weakened creature, those are all rolled at advantage, making a crit more likely. It doesn't have any resistances or immunities, so the party can toss literally everything they have at it, but its lowest save bonus is +8, and with 5 legendary resistances, it's not getting stunned or paralyzed anytime soon. Honestly, the best thing I can say is don't forget. Between players being weakened, flung through time, slowed to a crawl, or limited in actions, it's a lot to remember, and forgetting any of those effects could nerf your dragon and make the fight easier. So write sticky notes, use condition tokens, and do whatever you can to remember, because the time dragon will do the rest. If you need your party absolutely wrecked, and you want it done right, then hire an ancient time dragon. Sure, some might call it absurd to unleash one of these on your party because they forgot to reply to your very funny D&D meme. But who cares when you're busy killing players across time and space? Time dragons, call before it's too late. But with them, it never is. Time dragons are not liable for any warping, existential dread, or timeline damage that occurs while working a case. Payment should be made in the form of treasured memories or like a scrapbook or something. Time dragons do not accept cases involving chronomancers, broken clocks, or the DMV. If you believe that you or a loved one has been replaced by an alternate timeline version of yourself, please hang up and don't call back. Oh, and crit your players.